Question 1. The evaluation methodology shows that when proposing IBM new workloads, a critical step involves assessing potential risks. Which of the following approaches best aligns with regulatory expectations and ethical sales practices for managing these risks? Option A. Prioritizing the speed of deployment and immediate cost savings, with a secondary consideration for potential risks that may arise post-implementation. Option B. Focusing primarily on showcasing the advanced features and competitive advantages of the new workload, assuming the client's IT department will handle any integration or security concerns. Option C. Relying on vendor-provided case studies and testimonials as the sole basis for risk evaluation, without independent verification or client-specific analysis. Option D. Conducting a comprehensive risk assessment that identifies, analyzes, and plans for the mitigation of potential technical, operational, security, and compliance risks in collaboration with the client. The correct answer is D. Conducting a comprehensive risk assessment that identifies, analyzes, and plans for the mitigation of potential technical, operational, security, and compliance risks in collaboration with the client. Explanation. The evaluation methodology shows a critical need for a robust risk assessment framework when proposing new workloads, particularly in the context of IBM new workload sales. This scenario is professionally challenging because it requires balancing the potential benefits of new technologies with the inherent uncertainties and potential downsides. A thorough risk assessment is not merely a procedural step, but a fundamental ethical and regulatory obligation to ensure that proposed solutions are viable, secure, and compliant. The correct approach represents best professional practice because it systematically identifies, analyzes, and mitigates potential risks before deployment. This aligns with regulatory expectations for due diligence and responsible sales practices. By proactively addressing risks such as data security vulnerabilities, integration challenges, performance degradation, and compliance gaps, a sales professional demonstrates a commitment to client success and minimizes the likelihood of negative outcomes. This proactive stance builds trust and reinforces the integrity of the sales process, which is paramount in regulated environments. An incorrect approach that focuses solely on the technical capabilities of the new workload without considering its operational and business context would be professionally unacceptable. This failure stems from a disregard for the client's specific environment and potential impact, leading to a misrepresentation of the solution's suitability. Such an approach could violate ethical guidelines by prioritizing sales targets over client well-being and potentially contravene regulatory requirements related to providing accurate and complete information. Another incorrect approach that neglects to assess the financial implications and return on investment for the client would also be a significant failure. This oversight can lead to clients making investments that do not yield expected benefits, causing financial strain and reputational damage. Ethically, it represents a lack of fiduciary responsibility, and from a regulatory standpoint, it could be seen as misleading if the sales process implies guaranteed financial returns without proper substantiation. A third incorrect approach that fails to involve relevant stakeholders from the client's organization in the risk assessment process is also problematic. This isolation can lead to overlooking critical operational, security, or compliance concerns that only those stakeholders would be aware of. This can result in a solution that is technically sound but practically unworkable or non-compliant, leading to project failure and potential regulatory breaches. The professional decision-making process for similar situations should involve a structured, client-centric approach. This begins with understanding the client's business objectives and existing infrastructure. Next, a comprehensive risk identification phase should be conducted, involving relevant client personnel. This should be followed by a thorough risk analysis to determine the likelihood and impact of identified risks. Finally, a mitigation strategy must be developed and agreed upon with the client, ensuring that all parties understand and accept the residual risks. This iterative process ensures that proposed solutions are not only technologically advanced, but also strategically sound and ethically responsible. Question 2. Assessment of the client's technical infrastructure and operational readiness is a critical step when proposing IBM new workloads. Which of the following approaches best reflects a responsible and ethical sales practice in this context? Option A. Conducting a detailed risk assessment that evaluates the client's current environment, technical expertise, and potential integration challenges before recommending a specific IBM new workload solution. Option B, proceeding with the sale based on the client's expressed enthusiasm for the new technology, assuming they have the necessary internal resources to manage the implementation. Option C, focusing the discussion solely on the advanced features and benefits of the IBM new workload solution, without delving into the practicalities of their existing infrastructure. Option D, minimizing any discussion of potential implementation hurdles or risks to ensure a smooth and quick sales cycle, emphasizing only the positive outcomes. The correct answer is A, conducting a detailed risk assessment that evaluates the client's current environment, technical expertise, and potential integration challenges before recommending a specific IBM new workload solution. Explanation: this scenario is professionally challenging because it requires a sales professional to balance the immediate need to close a deal with the long-term responsibility of ensuring the client's success and adherence to IBM's ethical sales practices, particularly concerning the introduction of new workloads. The core of the challenge lies in accurately assessing the client's readiness and the potential risks associated with adopting new technologies without adequate preparation. The correct approach represents best professional practice because it prioritizes a thorough risk assessment before proposing a solution. This aligns with IBM's commitment to responsible selling and client success, as outlined in its internal sales guidelines and ethical conduct policies. By conducting a comprehensive risk assessment, the sales professional demonstrates due diligence, ensuring that the proposed IBM new workload solution is a good fit for the client's current infrastructure, technical capabilities, and business objectives. This proactive approach mitigates potential issues, builds trust, and fosters a sustainable client relationship, ultimately preventing potential regulatory breaches related to misrepresentation or selling unsuitable solutions. An incorrect approach that involves pushing the sale without a proper risk assessment fails to uphold IBM's ethical standards and could lead to client dissatisfaction, project failure, and reputational damage. This could be seen as a breach of trust and potentially violate guidelines related to ensuring client readiness for new technology adoption. Another incorrect approach, focusing solely on the client's stated desire for the technology without probing deeper into their operational realities, ignores the inherent risks of new workloads. A superficial assessment can lead to the client overestimating their capabilities or underestimating the implementation challenges, resulting in a failed deployment. This is ethically questionable as it prioritizes short-term gain over the client's long-term viability. Finally, an approach that involves downplaying potential risks to secure the sale is a direct violation of ethical sales practices. It misleads the client about the true nature of the implementation and the potential challenges, creating an environment ripe for failure and potential disputes. This is not only unethical, but could also have implications if it leads to a situation where the client incurs significant losses due to unmanaged risks. The professional decision-making process for similar situations should involve a structured approach. 1. Understand the client's stated needs and business objectives. 2. Conduct a thorough risk assessment considering technical, operational, and financial factors. 3. Evaluate the client's readiness and capacity to adopt new workloads. 4. Propose solutions that are a genuine fit, clearly outlining potential risks and mitigation strategies. 5. Maintain transparency and honesty throughout the sales process. 6. Prioritize long-term client success and partnership over immediate sales targets. Question 3. Comparative studies suggest that the effectiveness of new workload implementations is significantly influenced by the initial risk assessment process. When proposing IBM's new workload solutions to a prospective client, which of the following approaches best aligns with responsible sales practices and client success? Option A. Conduct a comprehensive risk assessment involving key client stakeholders to identify potential challenges, integration complexities, and mitigation strategies before finalizing the proposal. Option B. Downplay any identified potential risks to ensure a smooth sales process and secure the deal quickly. Option C. Rely on general industry best practices and the success stories of other clients without a specific assessment of the current client's unique environment. Option D. Focus primarily on highlighting the immediate cost savings and performance improvements, assuming the client has adequately assessed their own risks. The correct answer is A. Conduct a comprehensive risk assessment involving key client stakeholders to identify potential challenges, integration complexities, and mitigation strategies before finalizing the proposal. Explanation. This scenario is professionally challenging because it requires balancing the client's immediate perceived needs with the long-term implications of a technology adoption, all while adhering to IBM's internal sales guidelines and the regulatory environment governing technology sales and data handling. The sales professional must act as a trusted advisor, not just a product pusher, ensuring that the proposed solution aligns with the client's actual risk appetite and operational capabilities. The correct approach represents best professional practice because it prioritizes a thorough, documented risk assessment that involves key stakeholders from the client's organization. This aligns with general principles of responsible technology deployment and IBM's own sales methodologies, which emphasize understanding client business objectives and potential challenges. By engaging in a structured risk assessment, the sales professional ensures that the client is fully aware of potential downsides, such as integration complexities, data security vulnerabilities, and the need for skilled personnel, and that mitigation strategies are considered. This proactive approach builds trust and reduces the likelihood of post-sale dissatisfaction or regulatory noncompliance for the client, thereby safeguarding IBM's reputation and fostering a long-term relationship. An incorrect approach that focuses solely on the perceived immediate benefits without a comprehensive risk evaluation fails to uphold the duty of care expected of a technology sales professional. This could lead to the client adopting a solution that is not a good fit, resulting in operational disruptions, financial losses, or even regulatory penalties if data privacy or security is compromised. Such an approach disregards the ethical obligation to provide sound advice and could be seen as misrepresenting the suitability of the solution. Another incorrect approach that involves downplaying or ignoring potential risks to secure a sale is ethically unsound and potentially violates consumer protection regulations that prohibit deceptive sales practices. This prioritizes short-term gain over the client's well-being and long-term success. It also exposes both the client and IBM to significant reputational and legal risks. A further incorrect approach that relies on anecdotal evidence or the experiences of other clients without a specific assessment of the current client's unique environment is also professionally deficient. While peer experiences can be informative, they do not substitute for a tailored risk assessment that considers the specific industry, regulatory landscape, existing infrastructure, and risk tolerance of the prospective client. This can lead to a misapplication of technology and unforeseen consequences. The professional decision-making process for similar situations should involve a structured approach. 1. Understand the client's stated needs and business objectives. 2. Conduct a thorough discovery process to uncover potential risks and challenges related to the proposed solution, including technical, operational, security, and compliance aspects. 3. Facilitate a collaborative risk assessment involving relevant client stakeholders. 4. Document identified risks and proposed mitigation strategies. 5. Clearly communicate the risk-reward profile of the solution to the client. 6. Ensure the proposed solution aligns with IBM sales policies and ethical guidelines. 7. Obtain informed consent from the client regarding the identified risks and the proposed path forward. Question 4. Process analysis reveals a potential client expressing significant interest in a new IBM workload solution, but voicing strong reservations about its integration with their existing, complex legacy infrastructure and the potential for disruption. The client is concerned about the technical feasibility and the resources required for a smooth transition. What is the most effective and professionally responsible approach to address these concerns and move forward with the sales process? Option A. Assure the client that the new workload is designed for seamless integration and will effortlessly replace their existing systems with minimal effort or additional resources, downplaying any potential complexities. Option B. Conduct a comprehensive assessment of the client's current environment and propose a phased integration plan for the new IBM workload, clearly detailing the steps, potential challenges, and mitigation strategies, while ensuring all representations are accurate and substantiated. Option C. Advise the client to immediately decommission their legacy systems to fully embrace the new IBM workload, assuming they can manage the transition without a detailed plan or consideration for business continuity. Option D. Focus exclusively on the advanced features and potential return on investment of the new workload, highlighting its innovative capabilities without deeply engaging with the client's specific integration concerns. The correct answer is B. Conduct a comprehensive assessment of the client's current environment and propose a phased integration plan for the new IBM workload, clearly detailing the steps, potential challenges, and mitigation strategies, while ensuring all representations are accurate and substantiated. Explanation. Scenario analysis. This scenario presents a common challenge in sales where a client expresses interest in a new IBM workload solution, but is hesitant due to perceived complexity and integration risks with their existing legacy infrastructure. The challenge lies in balancing the client's immediate concerns with the long-term benefits of the new technology, while adhering to IBM's sales guidelines and relevant regulatory frameworks for technology sales and data handling. The professional must navigate potential misrepresentations, ensure accurate disclosure of capabilities and limitations, and avoid creating unrealistic expectations that could lead to client dissatisfaction or regulatory noncompliance. The pressure to close a sale must not override the ethical obligation to provide a solution that genuinely meets the client's needs and operates within legal boundaries. Correct approach analysis. The best professional practice involves a thorough discovery process to understand the client's current environment, specific pain points, and desired outcomes. This includes a detailed assessment of their existing infrastructure, data flows, and security protocols. Based on this understanding, the sales professional should then propose a phased implementation strategy for the new IBM workload, clearly outlining the integration steps, potential challenges, and mitigation plans. This approach demonstrates a commitment to client success by ensuring the proposed solution is a good fit and that the implementation is manageable. It aligns with ethical sales principles by prioritizing client needs and fostering trust through transparency. From a regulatory perspective, this detailed approach helps ensure that any representations made about the workload's compatibility and performance are accurate and substantiated, avoiding potential violations related to misrepresentation or misleading advertising. It also supports compliance with data privacy regulations by ensuring the client understands how their data will be handled within the new workload. Incorrect approach is analysis. One incorrect approach is to downplay the complexity of integration and assure the client that the new workload will seamlessly replace their existing systems without significant disruption or additional resources. This is professionally unacceptable because it constitutes a misrepresentation of the product's capabilities and the implementation effort required. It violates ethical sales practices by creating false expectations and could lead to significant client dissatisfaction, project failure, and potential financial repercussions for both parties. From a regulatory standpoint, such an assurance could be construed as misleading advertising or a breach of contract if the client relies on this inaccurate information. Another incorrect approach is to focus solely on the advanced features and potential ROI of the new workload, without adequately addressing the client's concerns about integration and compatibility with their legacy systems. This approach fails to acknowledge and resolve the client's primary objections, demonstrating a lack of empathy and a disregard for their current operational realities. It is professionally unsound as it prioritizes a feature dump over a client-centric solution. Ethically, it can be seen as pushing a product without ensuring it's a suitable fit, potentially leading to a failed implementation and wasted client resources. Regulatory concerns arise if the sales process fails to disclose material information about integration challenges, which could be deemed a failure to provide adequate disclosure. A third incorrect approach involves suggesting that the client should immediately decommission their legacy systems to fully leverage the new IBM workload, without a clear plan or understanding of the client's business continuity requirements. This is professionally irresponsible, as it disregards the critical need for business continuity and the potential impact of abrupt system changes. It demonstrates a lack of due diligence and a failure to consider the holistic business needs of the client. Ethically, this approach prioritizes a quick sale over the client's operational stability. Regulatory implications could include failure to comply with business continuity planning requirements or data retention policies that might be tied to legacy systems. Professional reasoning. Professionals should adopt a consultative sales approach. This involves active listening to understand client needs, thorough discovery of their current environment, and a transparent discussion of solutions, including potential challenges and mitigation strategies. The decision-making process should prioritize building long-term client relationships based on trust and delivering value. This means always providing accurate information, managing expectations realistically, and ensuring that proposed solutions align with both the client's technical capabilities and regulatory obligations. When faced with client concerns, the professional should seek to address them directly and collaboratively, rather than dismissing or minimizing them. Question 5. To address the challenge of recommending IBM's new workloads for a client in a highly regulated industry, which approach best exemplifies a professional and compliant sales strategy, ensuring both client success and adherence to IBM's best practices? Option A. Prioritize presenting the most innovative and feature-rich new workloads from IBM's portfolio, assuming that advanced technology will inherently meet the client's needs and regulatory requirements in a highly regulated sector. Option B. Focus on closing the deal quickly by highlighting the perceived benefits of IBM's new workloads, without extensive validation of the client's specific operational context or regulatory obligations. Option C. Make educated guesses about the client's compliance needs based on industry trends, and proceed with a standard IBM solution, seeking client confirmation only after the initial proposal has been made. Option D. Conduct a comprehensive discovery process to understand the client's specific business objectives, technical environment, and all applicable regulatory compliance mandates. Then tailor the recommendation of IBM's new workloads to directly address these findings, emphasizing demonstrable business value and risk mitigation. The correct answer is D. Conduct a comprehensive discovery process to understand the client's specific business objectives, technical environment, and all applicable regulatory compliance mandates. Then tailor the recommendation of IBM's new workloads to directly address these findings, emphasizing demonstrable business value and risk mitigation. Explanation. This scenario presents a professional challenge in navigating the complexities of IBM's new workload sales, specifically concerning the best practice evaluation aspect of the C1000-020 exam. The core difficulty lies in accurately assessing and recommending solutions that not only meet client technical requirements, but also align with IBM's strategic direction and the regulatory landscape relevant to the sale of new workloads. This requires a nuanced understanding of IBM's product portfolio, the competitive environment, and the ethical considerations inherent in providing expert advice. Careful judgment is crucial to avoid misrepresenting capabilities, overpromising outcomes, or recommending solutions that could lead to compliance issues for the client or IBM. The correct approach represents best professional practice because it prioritizes a comprehensive, client-centric, and compliant evaluation. This involves a thorough understanding of the client's business objectives, technical environment, and any relevant industry-specific regulations. By focusing on demonstrating how IBM's new workloads can deliver tangible business value while adhering to IBM's own sales guidelines and any applicable legal or ethical frameworks, the professional acts as a trusted advisor. This aligns with the ethical imperative to provide accurate and beneficial recommendations, fostering long-term client relationships and upholding IBM's reputation. An incorrect approach that solely focuses on the most advanced or technically impressive features without a clear link to client value or regulatory compliance is professionally unacceptable. This could lead to recommending solutions that are overly complex, expensive, or unsuitable for the client's actual needs, potentially resulting in client dissatisfaction and financial loss. Furthermore, it may overlook critical security or data privacy considerations that are paramount in today's regulatory environment. Another incorrect approach that prioritizes speed of sale over thorough evaluation is also professionally flawed. This can result in rushed assessments, incomplete due diligence, and a failure to identify potential risks or limitations of the proposed solution. Such an approach undermines the principle of providing informed advice and can lead to significant post-sale issues, including client churn and reputational damage for both the client and IBM. A third incorrect approach that involves making assumptions about client needs or regulatory requirements without explicit verification is ethically problematic. This demonstrates a lack of diligence and can lead to recommendations that are misaligned with the client's true situation, potentially exposing them to legal or financial penalties. It also fails to uphold the professional standard of seeking clarity and confirmation before proceeding. The professional decision-making process for similar situations should involve a structured approach. 1. Understand the client. Deeply investigate the client's business goals, current challenges, and existing infrastructure. 2. Identify requirements. Clearly define both technical and business requirements, including any compliance or regulatory mandates. 3. Evaluate IBM solutions. Assess how IBM's new workloads can address these requirements, focusing on value proposition and integration. 4. Consider alternatives in internal IBM context. While the focus is on IBM solutions, understanding the broader IBM portfolio helps in positioning the right workload. 5. Risk assessment. Identify potential risks associated with the proposed solution, including technical, operational, and compliance risks. 6. Recommendation and justification. Formulate a clear recommendation supported by a robust justification that links the solution to client value and addresses potential concerns. 7. Continuous learning. Stay updated on IBM's new workloads, industry trends, and relevant regulatory changes. Question 6. Process analysis reveals a client expressing strong interest in adopting IBM's new workloads for enhanced analytics, but their current IT infrastructure is outdated, and their internal technical team lacks experience with cloud-native technologies. What is the most responsible and professionally sound approach for the IBM sales professional? Option A. Suggest that the client engage a third-party consultant to assess their infrastructure and training needs, and then revisit the IBM solution once those assessments are complete and any recommended changes have been implemented. Option B. Focus exclusively on the advanced features and benefits of the new workloads, assuring the client that the technology is robust and will likely drive significant improvements regardless of their current infrastructure limitations. Option C. Recommend a phased adoption strategy that includes an initial assessment of the client's infrastructure and skill gaps, followed by a plan for necessary foundational upgrades and training before full deployment of the new workloads. Option D. Proceed with the sale of the new workloads immediately, advising the client that they will need to independently manage the necessary infrastructure upgrades and skill development to support the new technology. The correct answer is C. Recommend a phased adoption strategy that includes an initial assessment of the client's infrastructure and skill gaps, followed by a plan for necessary foundational upgrades and training for full deployment of the new workloads. Explanation. Scenario analysis. This scenario presents a common challenge in sales where a client expresses interest in a new technology solution that IBM offers, but their current infrastructure and internal expertise are not fully aligned. The challenge lies in balancing the immediate sales opportunity with the client's long-term success and IBM's commitment to responsible sales practices. Misjudging the client's readiness or overpromising capabilities can lead to project failure, reputational damage, and potential regulatory scrutiny if misrepresentations are made regarding the solution's compatibility or implementation feasibility. The need for careful judgment stems from the potential for both significant client benefit and substantial risk if not managed appropriately. Correct approach analysis. The best professional practice involves a thorough assessment of the client's existing environment and capabilities, followed by a transparent discussion about potential gaps and the necessary steps to bridge them. This approach aligns with IBM's ethical sales guidelines and regulatory expectations that emphasize honesty, transparency, and ensuring solutions are a good fit for the client's needs and capacity. By recommending a phased approach that includes an assessment and potential foundational upgrades, the sales professional demonstrates a commitment to the client's successful adoption of new workloads, rather than simply closing a deal. This proactive identification and mitigation of risks build trust and ensure long-term customer satisfaction, which is a cornerstone of responsible business conduct. Incorrect approaches analysis. Pushing for an immediate implementation without addressing the infrastructure and skill gaps represents a failure to conduct due diligence. This approach risks misrepresenting the solution's readiness for the client's environment, potentially violating principles of fair dealing and accurate representation, which are implicitly expected in business transactions and could have implications under consumer protection or fair trade regulations if they exist in the relevant jurisdiction. Suggesting the client independently manage the infrastructure and skill development without IBM's guidance or a clear plan is also problematic. While clients are responsible for their own environments, a sales professional has an ethical obligation to provide realistic advice. This approach could be seen as an abdication of responsibility and a failure to act in the client's best interest, potentially leading to a situation where the client invests in a solution they cannot effectively utilize, which could be viewed as deceptive practice. Focusing solely on the technical capabilities of the new workloads without considering the client's operational readiness or the integration challenges is another flawed approach. This narrow focus ignores the practical realities of implementing complex solutions and can lead to unrealistic expectations. It fails to uphold the principle of providing comprehensive and accurate information necessary for informed decision-making, which is a fundamental aspect of ethical sales and business conduct. Professional reasoning. Professionals should adopt a consultative sales approach. This involves actively listening to the client's needs, understanding their current state, and then collaboratively developing a solution that addresses both immediate goals and long-term success. The process should include a discovery phase to identify potential challenges, a proposal phase that outlines a realistic implementation plan, including any necessary prerequisites, and a post-sale support structure. Transparency about limitations and potential risks, alongside a clear plan for mitigation, is paramount. This framework ensures that sales are conducted ethically and responsibly, fostering trust and sustainable client relationships. Question 7. The risk matrix shows a moderate risk associated with deploying a new AI-driven analytics workload for a financial services client due to potential data privacy compliance challenges. As a sales professional, which approach best navigates this situation while adhering to IBM sales guidelines and regulatory expectations for financial services? Option A. Emphasize the innovative nature of the AI workload and assure the client that IBM solutions are designed with security and compliance in mind, deferring detailed regulatory discussions until after the sale is closed. Option B. Focus on the immediate cost savings and performance improvements the AI workload can deliver, downplaying the data privacy risks as manageable and common to all new technology deployments. Option C. Highlight the potential competitive advantages the AI workload offers and suggest that the client's internal IT and legal teams are primarily responsible for ensuring regulatory compliance, minimizing IBM's direct involvement in detailed compliance verification. Option D. Proactively engage IBM's data privacy and compliance specialists to conduct a detailed assessment of the proposed solution's alignment with relevant financial regulations, e.g., GDPR, CCPA, and specific financial industry mandates, and present a clear plan for addressing any identified gaps, including potential configuration adjustments or additional security measures. Correct answer is D. Proactively engage IBM's data privacy and compliance specialists to conduct a detailed assessment of the proposed solution's alignment with relevant financial regulations, e.g., GDPR, CCPA, and specific financial industry mandates, and present a clear plan for addressing any identified gaps, including potential configuration adjustments or additional security measures. Explanation. This scenario presents a professional challenge because it requires balancing the immediate need to secure a new workload sale with the long-term implications of misrepresenting a solution's capabilities, particularly in the context of IBM's commitment to delivering on promises and adhering to regulatory guidelines for sales practices. The core of the challenge lies in understanding the nuances of new workloads and ensuring that the proposed solution, while innovative, demonstrably meets the client's stated requirements and regulatory compliance needs without overpromising. The correct approach represents best professional practice because it prioritizes a thorough, evidence-based evaluation of the solution's alignment with the client's specific regulatory environment and technical needs. This involves engaging technical experts, conducting proof-of-concept testing, and transparently communicating any limitations or areas requiring further development. This aligns with ethical sales conduct and regulatory expectations that sales representation should be accurate and substantiated, preventing potential future disputes, regulatory scrutiny, and damage to IBM's reputation. It demonstrates a commitment to customer success and responsible innovation. An incorrect approach that focuses solely on the sales target without adequate technical validation would fail to meet regulatory expectations for fair and honest representation. This could lead to a breach of contract, regulatory penalties if the misrepresentation impacts compliance, and significant reputational damage. Another incorrect approach, which involves downplaying potential integration challenges or security considerations, ignores the client's critical need for a compliant and secure solution. This demonstrates a lack of due diligence and a disregard for the client's operational integrity, potentially exposing them to significant risks and violating principles of responsible technology deployment. A third incorrect approach, which relies on generic assurances without specific evidence tailored to the client's industry and regulatory framework, is insufficient. It fails to provide the necessary assurance that the new workload solution will indeed meet the stringent requirements of the client's regulated environment, risking noncompliance and operational failure. The professional decision-making process for similar situations should involve a structured approach. First, clearly define the client's requirements, including their specific regulatory obligations. Second, assess the proposed solution's capabilities against these requirements, leveraging internal expertise and available documentation. Third, if there are gaps or uncertainties, initiate further investigation, such as technical deep dives, pilot programs, or consultations with subject matter experts. Fourth, communicate findings transparently with the client, managing expectations and collaboratively identifying solutions or workarounds. Finally, ensure all contractual agreements accurately reflect the capabilities and limitations of the solution. Question 8. Compliance review shows a sales representative is nearing the end of a quarter and is eager to close a significant deal for a new workload solution. The customer has expressed strong interest, but the representative is aware of certain technical limitations in the current version of the solution that might impact the customer's specific, albeit niche, use case. The customer has not explicitly raised these concerns, and the representative believes they can address them post-sale with future updates or workarounds. Which of the following approaches best aligns with regulatory frameworks and ethical sales practices for this scenario? Option A. Proceed with the sale, emphasizing the solution's core strengths and deferring detailed discussion of potential limitations until after the contract is signed, with a promise to provide support for any issues. Option B. Proactively engage technical specialists to assess the feasibility of the customer's specific use case with the current solution, and propose a limited proof of concept to validate capabilities before finalizing the sale. Option C. Assure the customer that the solution is fully capable of meeting all their stated and implied needs, highlighting the upcoming roadmap for enhancements that will further solidify its suitability. Option D. Focus on the immediate benefits and cost savings the solution offers, suggesting that the customer's specific use case is a minor aspect that can be managed through standard operational procedures. The correct answer is B. Proactively engage technical specialists to assess the feasibility of the customer's specific use case with the current solution, and propose a limited proof of concept to validate capabilities before finalizing the sale. Explanation. This scenario presents a common challenge in sales environments, where the pressure to close deals can sometimes conflict with the need for thorough due diligence and adherence to internal best practices. The professional challenge lies in balancing the immediate revenue opportunity with the long-term implications of misrepresenting a solution's capabilities, which can lead to customer dissatisfaction, reputational damage, and potential regulatory scrutiny. Careful judgment is required to ensure that sales commitments are realistic and aligned with the actual product offering and the customer's genuine needs. The correct approach represents best professional practice because it prioritizes accurate representation and customer success. By involving technical experts and conducting a proof of concept, the sales representative ensures that the proposed solution is a genuine fit for the customer's requirements. This aligns with ethical sales principles and regulatory expectations that prohibit deceptive practices. It fosters trust and builds a sustainable customer relationship, which is crucial for long-term business success and compliance. An incorrect approach that involves downplaying or ignoring technical limitations for the sake of a quick sale is a significant regulatory and ethical failure. This constitutes misrepresentation, which can violate consumer protection laws and industry codes of conduct. It erodes customer trust and can lead to contractual disputes and financial penalties. Another incorrect approach, such as overpromising on future capabilities without concrete evidence or a clear roadmap, is also problematic. This can be seen as a form of deceptive advertising and can lead to unmet expectations and legal recourse for the customer. Finally, an approach that focuses solely on the sale without understanding the customer's business context risks selling a solution that is not only technically unsuitable, but also fails to deliver any business value, leading to wasted resources for both parties and potential damage to IBM's reputation. The professional decision-making process for similar situations should involve a structured approach. First, thoroughly understand the customer's needs and objectives. Second, assess the proposed IBM solution's capabilities against those needs, consulting with technical specialists when necessary. Third, be transparent about any limitations or areas where the solution may not be a perfect fit, and explore potential workarounds or alternative solutions. Fourth, if a proof of concept or pilot is recommended, ensure it is conducted rigorously and its outcomes are clearly communicated. Finally, always prioritize honesty and integrity over short-term gains, recognizing that long-term customer relationships are built on trust and delivered value. Question 9. Consider a scenario where a client expresses interest in modernizing their legacy application infrastructure, but is hesitant about adopting new workload technologies due to perceived complexity and a lack of immediate, tangible cost reductions. The sales professional has identified a new IBM workload solution that offers significant long-term scalability, enhanced security, and improved performance, but requires a shift in the client's operational approach. What is the most professional and effective approach to guide this client towards adopting the new workload? Option A. Emphasize the immediate cost savings that can be achieved by decommissioning legacy systems, even if these savings are marginal in the short term, to build initial momentum for the project. Option B. Prioritize a deep dive into the client's current business challenges, strategic objectives, and operational workflows to identify how the new IBM workload can directly address these specific needs and deliver measurable business outcomes before detailing the technical solution. Option C. Focus on demonstrating the technical superiority and advanced features of the IBM solution, highlighting its future-proofing capabilities and potential for innovation, while acknowledging the learning curve involved. Option D. Propose a phased implementation of the new workload, starting with a small, non-critical component, to allow the client to gain familiarity and confidence with the technology before a full rollout. Correct answer is C. Focus on demonstrating the technical superiority and advanced features of the IBM solution, highlighting its future-proofing capabilities and potential for innovation, while acknowledging the learning curve involved. Explanation. This scenario presents a professional challenge because it requires balancing the client's immediate perceived needs with the long-term strategic benefits of a solution that may not be fully understood or immediately apparent. The sales professional must navigate potential resistance to change and demonstrate the value proposition of a new workload solution in a way that aligns with the client's business objectives and IBM's own best practices for solution deployment. The core of the challenge lies in moving beyond a transactional sale to a consultative partnership. The correct approach represents best professional practice because it prioritizes understanding the client's underlying business challenges and strategic goals before proposing a specific IBM solution. This consultative methodology ensures that the proposed new workload is not merely a technological upgrade, but a strategic enabler for the client's business. It aligns with ethical sales principles by focusing on delivering genuine value and fostering trust, which are paramount in long-term client relationships. This approach also implicitly adheres to regulatory frameworks that encourage fair dealing and responsible sales practices by ensuring solutions are fit for purpose and meet client needs, rather than pushing products for the sake of a sale. An incorrect approach that focuses solely on the technical features of the new workload without understanding the client's business context is professionally unacceptable. This can lead to misaligned solutions, client dissatisfaction, and wasted resources, potentially violating principles of good faith and fair dealing. Another incorrect approach that emphasizes immediate cost savings without a clear understanding of the long-term ROI or potential operational impacts fails to provide a holistic view. This can be seen as misleading if the short-term gains obscure potential future challenges, or if the client is not adequately prepared for the transition. A third incorrect approach that bypasses internal IBM governance or best practices for solution assessment risks proposing an unproven or unsupported configuration, which could lead to technical failures and reputational damage for both the client and IBM, and may contravene internal compliance guidelines. Professionals should adopt a structured, client-centric decision-making process. This involves active listening to identify pain points and aspirations, thorough discovery to understand the client's environment and strategic objectives, and then mapping IBM's capabilities to those specific needs. The process should include a clear articulation of the business value and ROI, alongside a realistic assessment of implementation and ongoing management. This consultative framework ensures that recommendations are not only technically sound, but also strategically aligned and ethically delivered, fostering trust and long-term partnerships. Question 10. The investigation demonstrates that a sales representative is evaluating different strategies to introduce a new IBM workload solution to a prospective client. The representative is considering whether to emphasize the cutting-edge features of the solution, focus on the immediate cost savings it promises, or conduct a detailed assessment of the client's existing infrastructure and business objectives before tailoring the presentation. Option A. Present a generic overview of the solution's capabilities, assuming the client will identify relevant applications. Option B. Emphasize the most advanced and innovative features of the solution to capture the client's attention. Option C. Highlight the immediate cost savings the solution can deliver, focusing on a quick return on investment. Option D. Conduct a detailed assessment of the client's existing infrastructure and business objectives before tailoring the presentation. The correct answer is D. Conduct a detailed assessment of the client's existing infrastructure and business objectives before tailoring the presentation. Explanation. The investigation demonstrates a scenario where a sales representative for IBM, operating within the context of the C1000-020 IBM New Workloads Sales Exam, is tasked with evaluating the best approach to present a new workload solution to a potential client. The professional challenge lies in balancing the client's immediate needs and perceived benefits with the long-term implications of the proposed solution, ensuring that the sales process adheres to ethical standards and regulatory guidelines relevant to technology sales and data handling. The representative must navigate potential information asymmetry and client understanding of complex technical and contractual terms. The correct approach represents best professional practice because it prioritizes a thorough, client-centric evaluation that aligns with IBM's commitment to responsible technology deployment and sales ethics. This involves a deep understanding of the client's business objectives, technical environment, and regulatory compliance requirements before proposing a solution. It emphasizes transparency regarding the capabilities and limitations of the new workload, potential integration challenges, and the total cost of ownership, including ongoing support and potential future upgrades. This approach fosters trust and ensures the client makes an informed decision, minimizing the risk of misrepresentation or unmet expectations, which are critical in maintaining client relationships and adhering to sales conduct principles. An incorrect approach that focuses solely on highlighting the most advanced features without a comprehensive needs assessment represents a regulatory and ethical failure. This can lead to the client purchasing a solution that is over-engineered, unnecessarily complex, or not aligned with their actual business requirements, potentially violating principles of fair dealing and consumer protection by exploiting a lack of technical expertise. Another incorrect approach that downplays potential integration complexities or data security considerations is a significant ethical and regulatory breach. This misrepresents the product's readiness and the client's responsibilities, potentially exposing the client to operational risks and noncompliance with data protection laws, which are paramount in technology sales. Furthermore, an approach that prioritizes short-term sales targets over long-term client success and support can be seen as unethical, as it may lead to a client being locked into a suboptimal solution without adequate consideration for their ongoing operational needs and the total cost of ownership. The professional reasoning process for similar situations should involve a structured approach. First, conduct a comprehensive discovery phase to understand the client's business, technical landscape, and regulatory obligations. Second, map IBM's new workload solutions to these identified needs, clearly articulating both benefits and potential challenges. Third, engage in transparent communication, providing realistic assessments of performance, integration, security, and cost. Fourth, Involve relevant IBM technical and legal experts when necessary to ensure accuracy and compliance. Finally, document all discussions and agreements to maintain a clear record and manage expectations effectively. Question 11. Upon reviewing a potential client's interest in migrating their critical workloads to a new IBM cloud environment, what is the most prudent initial step to ensure compliance with data residency regulations? Option A. Proactively identify and document the client's specific data residency requirements and the applicable regulatory framework governing their industry and geographic operations. Option B. Emphasize the advanced security features and cost savings of the proposed IBM cloud platform to highlight its immediate benefits. Option C. Recommend a standard cloud deployment model, assuming that most data residency concerns can be addressed post-implementation. Option D. Immediately propose a cutting-edge hybrid cloud solution that offers superior performance and scalability for the new workloads. The correct answer is A. Proactively identify and document the client's specific data residency requirements and the applicable regulatory framework governing their industry and geographic operations. Explanation. Scenario analysis. This scenario presents a common implementation challenge where a client is eager to adopt new technology but has not fully considered the implications of data residency and compliance requirements. The professional challenge lies in balancing the client's enthusiasm for innovation with the absolute necessity of adhering to regulatory frameworks governing data handling. Failure to do so can lead to significant legal penalties, reputational damage, and operational disruption. The pressure to close a deal can sometimes overshadow due diligence, making it crucial for sales professionals to maintain a strong ethical compass and a thorough understanding of compliance obligations. Correct approach analysis. The correct approach prioritizes understanding and documenting the client's specific data residency requirements and the applicable regulatory landscape before proposing a solution. This aligns with the principle of responsible selling and due diligence, which are implicitly mandated by regulatory frameworks that emphasize customer protection and lawful data processing. By confirming compliance needs upfront, the sales professional ensures that any proposed IBM solution will meet legal and ethical standards, thereby safeguarding both the client and IBM from future complications. This proactive stance demonstrates a commitment to providing solutions that are not only technologically advanced, but also legally sound and ethically responsible, a cornerstone of professional conduct in regulated industries. Incorrect approaches analysis. Proposing a cloud solution without first verifying data residency requirements is a significant regulatory and ethical failure. It demonstrates a disregard for data protection laws, which often mandate where data can be stored and processed. This could lead to violations of regulations such as GDPR, if applicable to the client's operations, even if not explicitly stated in the exam's jurisdiction. The principle of data residency is universal in regulated environments or similar data sovereignty laws. Ethically, it exposes the client to undue risk and demonstrates a lack of due diligence. Suggesting a hybrid cloud model without a clear understanding of the client's specific compliance needs is also problematic. While hybrid models offer flexibility, they introduce complexity in managing data across different environments. Without a thorough assessment, the sales professional risks proposing a solution that inadvertently violates data residency rules or compliance mandates for either the on-premises or cloud components. This constitutes a failure in providing accurate and compliant advice. Focusing solely on the technical benefits and performance improvements of a new workload solution, while ignoring data governance and compliance, is a critical oversight. This approach prioritizes sales targets over client protection and regulatory adherence. It is a direct contravention of the ethical duty to provide solutions that are fit for purpose and compliant with all relevant laws. Such a failure can result in severe legal repercussions for the client and damage IBM's reputation as a responsible vendor. Professional reasoning. Professionals should adopt a consultative approach, beginning with a comprehensive discovery phase. This involves actively listening to the client's needs, understanding their business objectives, and critically, identifying all relevant regulatory and compliance obligations, particularly concerning data residency. This information should be documented and confirmed. Only then should potential solutions be explored and proposed, ensuring they demonstrably meet these identified requirements. This structured process mitigates risk, builds trust, and ensures that technology adoption is both beneficial and lawful. Question 12. The monitoring system demonstrates an unexpected surge in data volume originating from a new workload deployment, raising concerns about potential data residency violations for sensitive customer information. Which of the following actions best addresses this implementation challenge while adhering to regulatory frameworks and IBM's internal data governance policies? Option A. Continue the data transmission as is, focusing on optimizing the monitoring system's performance and addressing the data volume issue through increased storage capacity. Option B. Proceed with the global aggregation of the monitoring data, assuming that the anonymization protocols in place are sufficient to protect customer privacy regardless of the data's origin. Option C. Reconfigure the monitoring system to store all data locally within the new workload's deployment region, even if it compromises the centralized analysis capabilities of the system. Option D. Immediately halt the data transmission from the new workload and initiate a detailed audit of the data content and its intended geographical processing location, engaging legal and compliance teams to determine the appropriate remediation steps. The correct answer is D. Immediately halt the data transmission from the new workload and initiate a detailed audit of the data content and its intended geographical processing location, engaging legal and compliance teams to determine the appropriate remediation steps. Explanation. The monitoring system demonstrates a critical implementation challenge related to data residency and compliance with IBM's internal policies and relevant data protection regulations. The scenario is professionally challenging because it requires balancing the technical benefits of a centralized monitoring solution with the legal and ethical obligations to protect customer data, especially when dealing with sensitive workloads. A failure to address data residency can lead to significant regulatory penalties, reputational damage, and loss of customer trust. The correct approach involves a thorough assessment of data classification and the implementation of a geographically aware data storage strategy. This aligns with best professional practice by prioritizing compliance with data protection laws, such as GDPR if applicable to the customer's location, or similar regional regulations, and IBM's own stringent data governance policies. Specifically, ensuring that sensitive customer data is stored and processed within the customer's designated geographical boundaries, or in regions with equivalent data protection standards, is paramount. This proactive approach mitigates risks and demonstrates a commitment to customer privacy and regulatory adherence. An incorrect approach that involves ignoring the data residency requirement and proceeding with a global deployment of the monitoring system would represent a significant regulatory and ethical failure. This would violate data protection principles that mandate control over data location and processing, potentially leading to breaches of contract with customers and noncompliance with laws requiring data to remain within specific jurisdictions. Another incorrect approach, such as anonymizing all data before transmission without verifying the effectiveness and completeness of the anonymization process, also poses a risk. If the anonymization is insufficient, sensitive data could still be exposed, leading to privacy violations. Furthermore, relying solely on anonymization without considering the underlying data residency requirements might still be non-compliant if the raw data itself is subject to jurisdictional restrictions. Professionals should adopt a decision-making framework that begins with understanding the regulatory landscape and customer requirements regarding data. This involves a risk-based assessment, identifying sensitive data types, and mapping them to applicable data residency laws and internal policies. The next step is to evaluate technical solutions against these requirements, prioritizing those that offer granular control over data location and processing. Continuous monitoring and auditing of the implementation are crucial to ensure ongoing compliance. Question 13. Examination of the data shows that a client in the financial services sector is migrating a critical, data-sensitive workload to IBM Cloud. The client has explicitly stated that all data processed and stored for this workload must remain within the European Union due to GDPR and specific national financial regulations. The proposed IBM Cloud solution utilizes services that have data centers in multiple regions, including outside the EU. Which of the following approaches best addresses the implementation challenge of ensuring absolute compliance with data residency requirements for this workload? Option A. Confirm with the client's legal counsel that the chosen IBM cloud services are certified for GDPR compliance and proceed with the most cost-effective deployment option. Option B. Assume that IBM Cloud's global infrastructure inherently meets all data residency requirements for financial services workloads within the EU and focus on optimizing performance and cost. Option C. Implement the solution using the most performant IBM Cloud regions available globally and address any potential data residency concerns with the client after the initial deployment is complete. Option D. Proactively engage with the client's compliance and legal teams to identify the specific IBM Cloud regions within the EU that can host the workload and ensure all data processing and storage configurations are strictly limited to these regions. The correct answer is A. Confirm with the client's legal counsel that the chosen IBM cloud services are certified for GDPR compliance and proceed with the most cost-effective deployment option. Explanation. This scenario presents a common implementation challenge in cloud adoption, ensuring data residency and compliance with evolving regulatory landscapes, particularly concerning sensitive workloads. The challenge lies in balancing the client's desire for cost efficiency and performance with the absolute necessity of adhering to specific data protection laws. Professionals must navigate the complexities of cloud service provider offerings, understand the implications of data processing locations, and proactively address potential compliance gaps before they become critical issues. The correct approach demonstrates best professional practice by prioritizing a thorough understanding of the client's specific regulatory obligations and the capabilities of the proposed IBM cloud solution to meet those obligations. This involves a proactive engagement with the client's legal and compliance teams to confirm data residency requirements, and then validating that the chosen IBM cloud services and configurations can demonstrably satisfy these requirements. This aligns with ethical obligations to provide accurate and compliant solutions and regulatory mandates that require due diligence in data handling. An incorrect approach that focuses solely on cost reduction without verifying compliance fails to uphold professional responsibility. This could lead to significant regulatory penalties, reputational damage, and legal liabilities for both the client and the vendor. It represents a failure to conduct adequate due diligence and a disregard for the client's legal obligations. Another incorrect approach that assumes generic cloud compliance without specific validation is equally problematic. Regulations are often nuanced and location-specific. A blanket assumption can lead to non-compliance if the underlying infrastructure or data processing activities fall outside the scope of the assumed compliance. This demonstrates a lack of critical thinking and a failure to apply specific knowledge to the client's unique situation. Finally, an approach that delays addressing compliance concerns until after implementation introduces substantial risk. This reactive stance can result in costly remediation efforts, project delays, and potential data breaches or unauthorized data transfers, all of which are serious regulatory and ethical failures. The professional decision-making process should involve a structured approach. 1. Identify and clearly define all applicable regulatory requirements related to data residency and processing for the client's specific industry and geographic locations. 2. Thoroughly assess the capabilities and limitations of the proposed IBM cloud services in relation to these identified requirements. 3. Engage in open and transparent communication with the client's legal and compliance stakeholders to confirm understanding and agreement on compliance strategies. 4. Document all compliance-related decisions, validations, and configurations. 5. Implement the solution with a clear audit trail of compliance measures. Question 14. Performance analysis shows that a recently implemented IBM cloud workload for a key client is experiencing significant latency and reduced throughput compared to pre-migration benchmarks. The client is expressing dissatisfaction with the perceived performance degradation. Which of the following represents the most professional and compliant approach to address this situation? Option A. Advise the client to adjust their application's code to compensate for the perceived performance issues, suggesting that the current cloud infrastructure is operating as designed and the application needs optimization. Option B. Initiate a comprehensive review of the implemented IBM cloud configuration, application resource allocation, and network connectivity within the deployed environment to identify any discrepancies or misconfigurations that could be impacting performance. Option C. Propose a substantial upgrade to the client's IBM cloud instance and recommend purchasing additional premium support services to mitigate the performance concerns without conducting a detailed root cause analysis of the current deployment. Option D. Immediately inform the client that the performance issues are likely due to their legacy on-premises infrastructure not being adequately prepared for cloud migration, and recommend they invest in upgrading their internal network. The correct answer is B. Initiate a comprehensive review of the implemented IBM cloud configuration, application resource allocation, and network connectivity within the deployed environment to identify any discrepancies or misconfigurations that could be impacting performance. Explanation. Scenario analysis. This scenario presents a common challenge in cloud migration projects where performance expectations, as indicated by initial analysis, are not being met post-implementation. The professional challenge lies in accurately diagnosing the root cause of the performance degradation and proposing a solution that is not only technically sound, but also compliant with IBM sales guidelines and the regulatory framework governing IBM new workload sales, C1000-020. Misdiagnosing the issue can lead to wasted resources, client dissatisfaction, and potential contractual disputes. Furthermore, the pressure to demonstrate the value of the new workload implementation necessitates a swift and effective resolution. Correct approach analysis. The correct approach involves a systematic, data-driven investigation that begins with a thorough review of the implemented solution against the original design and performance benchmarks. This includes examining the configuration of the IBM cloud services, the application's resource utilization, and network latency. The focus should be on identifying any deviations from the planned architecture or resource allocation that could explain the performance shortfall. This aligns with IBM sales guidelines, which emphasize delivering solutions that meet client objectives and adhere to best practices for cloud deployments. Ethically, it demonstrates a commitment to client success and transparency by addressing performance issues directly and competently. Incorrect approach is analysis. One incorrect approach is to immediately attribute the performance issues to external factors or the client's existing infrastructure without a thorough internal investigation. This fails to acknowledge IBM's responsibility in the implementation and can be perceived as deflecting blame, which is professionally unsound and potentially violates sales guidelines that require accountability for delivered solutions. Another incorrect approach is to propose a significant, unvalidated architectural change or additional costly services without first exhausting all diagnostic steps. This can lead to unnecessary expenditure for the client and may not address the actual problem, representing a failure in due diligence and potentially a breach of trust. A third incorrect approach is to rely solely on anecdotal evidence or the client's initial complaints without corroborating data. This bypasses the rigorous problem-solving expected in a professional engagement and can lead to misinformed decisions, violating the principle of evidence-based resolution. Professional reasoning. Professionals should adopt a structured problem-solving methodology. This begins with clearly defining the problem based on objective data. Next, they should formulate hypotheses about potential causes and design tests to validate or invalidate these hypotheses. The process should prioritize investigating the implemented solution first, as this is within IBM's direct control. If the issue persists after internal investigation, then collaborative troubleshooting with the client, focusing on integration points, becomes appropriate. Throughout this process, maintaining clear communication with the client, documenting all findings and actions, and adhering to IBM sales and service level agreements are paramount. Question 15. The risk matrix shows a moderate likelihood of integration challenges between the client's legacy middleware and the new IBM workloads, with a high potential impact on data integrity and regulatory compliance if not addressed. Which implementation approach best mitigates these risks and ensures adherence to relevant data governance frameworks? Option A. Conduct a phased implementation starting with a comprehensive discovery and proof of concept to identify and address specific integration points and potential conflicts before full deployment. Option B. Implement the new IBM workloads with the expectation that they will automatically adapt to and overcome the limitations of the legacy middleware without specific integration efforts. Option C. Proceed with a direct lift and shift migration of the existing middleware to the new environment, assuming compatibility based on vendor assurances. Option D. Prioritize the rapid deployment of the new IBM workloads, deferring detailed integration testing and remediation of legacy middleware issues until after the initial go-live. The correct answer is A. Conduct a phased implementation starting with a comprehensive discovery and proof of concept to identify and address specific integration points and potential conflicts before full deployment. Explanation. Scenario analysis. This scenario presents a common implementation challenge where a client's existing, potentially legacy, infrastructure presents compatibility and integration hurdles with new IBM workloads. The challenge lies in balancing the client's desire for rapid deployment and cost-effectiveness with the technical realities and regulatory compliance requirements of integrating new technologies into a complex existing environment. A failure to adequately assess these challenges can lead to project delays, budget overruns, security vulnerabilities, and non-compliance with data governance regulations. Correct approach analysis. The correct approach emphasizes a thorough, phased assessment and a collaborative, iterative implementation strategy. This aligns with best practices for managing complex IT projects and adheres to the spirit of regulatory frameworks that mandate due diligence, risk management, and demonstrable compliance. By conducting a detailed discovery and proof of concept, the client and IBM can identify specific integration points, potential conflicts, and necessary remediation steps. This proactive approach minimizes unforeseen issues during full-scale deployment, ensuring that the new workloads operate securely and efficiently within the client's environment, and that all data handling complies with relevant regulations. This phased approach also allows for continuous validation against compliance requirements throughout the implementation lifecycle. Incorrect approaches analysis. One incorrect approach involves proceeding with a lift and shift migration without a comprehensive assessment of the existing infrastructure's compatibility with the new IBM workloads. This bypasses critical due diligence, potentially leading to performance degradation, security gaps, and non-compliance with data residency or privacy regulations if the legacy systems do not support the required controls for the new workloads. Represents a failure to manage risk effectively and a disregard for the potential impact on regulatory adherence. Another incorrect approach is to prioritize speed of deployment over thorough testing and validation of integration points. This can result in a system that is technically functional but fails to meet security standards or data handling requirements mandated by regulations. It demonstrates a lack of professional responsibility in ensuring the integrity and compliance of the deployed solution. A third incorrect approach is to assume that the new IBM workloads will automatically resolve all existing infrastructure limitations without specific configuration or integration efforts. This overlooks the complexities of heterogeneous environments and the need for tailored solutions to ensure compliance and optimal performance. It can lead to a situation where the new workloads operate in a non-compliant manner due to underlying infrastructure deficiencies that were not addressed. Professional reasoning. Professionals should adopt a structured, risk-aware approach to IT implementations. This involves a clear understanding of the client's existing environment, the capabilities and requirements of the new technology, and the applicable regulatory landscape. A decision-making process should prioritize thorough assessment, phased implementation with clear go/no-go criteria at each stage, continuous risk mitigation, and ongoing validation against compliance objectives. Collaboration with the client and relevant stakeholders is crucial to ensure alignment and shared understanding of challenges and solutions. Question 16. Analysis of an implementation challenge where a client, operating within a regulated industry, insists on migrating a mission-critical legacy application to a new cloud platform, primarily driven by a desire for immediate cost reduction and accelerated deployment timelines. Without a detailed understanding of the application's data handling sensitivities and the specific regulatory compliance requirements associated with that data. What is the most professionally responsible approach to address this situation? Option A. Proceed with a lift and shift migration to the new cloud platform as quickly as possible to meet the client's cost and timeline objectives, assuming the cloud provider's standard security features will suffice. Option B. Advise the client that the migration is too risky due to their lack of detailed understanding and recommend delaying any cloud adoption until they can provide more comprehensive technical and regulatory information. Option C. Conduct a comprehensive assessment of the application's technical architecture, dependencies, and critically, the regulatory compliance requirements governing the data it processes, followed by a phased migration strategy that includes validation against these requirements. Option D. Prioritize the technical aspects of the migration, such as performance optimization and infrastructure setup, and address any potential compliance concerns only after the application is successfully running on the new platform. The correct answer is C. Conduct a comprehensive assessment of the application's technical architecture, dependencies, and critically, the regulatory compliance requirements governing the data it processes, followed by a phased migration strategy that includes validation against these requirements. Explanation. Scenario analysis. This scenario presents a common challenge in cloud adoption where a client, driven by perceived cost savings, is pushing for a rapid migration of a critical, legacy application to a new, unfamiliar cloud platform without adequate consideration for its unique technical requirements and the regulatory landscape governing its data. The professional challenge lies in balancing the client's immediate desires with the long-term viability, security, and compliance of the solution. Ignoring the specific compliance needs of the data processed by the application, especially in a regulated industry, could lead to severe penalties and reputational damage. Correct approach analysis. The correct approach prioritizes a thorough assessment of the application's technical architecture, dependencies, and, crucially, the data it handles. This includes identifying all relevant regulatory requirements, e.g., data residency, encryption standards, access controls, applicable to the specific industry and jurisdiction. A phased migration strategy, starting with a proof of concept or a less critical component, allows for validation of the chosen cloud services against these requirements and the application's performance. This aligns with best practices for risk management and ensures that the migration adheres to the principle of security and compliance by design, a cornerstone of responsible technology deployment and a key consideration under any robust regulatory framework. It demonstrates a commitment to due diligence and client protection. Incorrect approach is analysis. One incorrect approach involves proceeding with the migration based solely on the client's directive for speed and cost reduction, without a comprehensive technical and regulatory assessment. This disregards the potential for significant compliance breaches, data security vulnerabilities, and application instability. Such an approach would be professionally negligent and could violate regulations requiring due diligence in technology selection and implementation, potentially leading to fines and legal liabilities. Another incorrect approach is to recommend a lift and shift without understanding the application's specific needs and the target cloud environment's capabilities for meeting regulatory mandates. Seemingly expedient, this often fails to address underlying architectural issues or leverage cloud-native features that are essential for compliance and optimal performance. This can result in a solution that is both non-compliant and inefficient, exposing the client to regulatory scrutiny and operational risks. A third incorrect approach is to focus exclusively on the technical aspects of migration, such as performance tuning or infrastructure setup, while neglecting the critical data governance and compliance requirements. This oversight can lead to the mishandling of sensitive data, violating regulations that mandate specific data protection measures, access controls, and audit trails. The ethical failure here is prioritizing technical execution over the client's legal and ethical obligations. Professional reasoning. Professionals should adopt a structured, risk-based approach. This involves 1. Understanding the client's business objectives and constraints. 2. Conducting a thorough discovery of the application's technical landscape and data characteristics. 3. Identifying all applicable regulatory and compliance requirements for the data and the industry. 4. Evaluating cloud service offerings against these requirements and technical needs. 5. Developing a phased migration strategy with clear validation points. 6. Documenting all assessments, decisions, and risk mitigation. This process ensures that technology solutions are not only functional, but also secure, compliant, and aligned with long-term business goals, thereby upholding professional integrity and client trust. Question 17. System analysis indicates a client is hesitant to adopt IBM's new workload solutions, citing concerns about the complexity of integration with their existing legacy infrastructure and the perceived immediate cost of transition, despite the potential for long-term efficiency gains. Which approach best navigates this implementation challenge while adhering to professional sales ethics and IBM sales framework? Option A. Agree to a limited pilot program of the new workloads on a separate, non-critical system to prove their basic functionality, without fully exploring the client's broader strategic goals or the potential for a more comprehensive transformation. Option B. Conduct a comprehensive business needs assessment to understand the client's strategic objectives and current pain points. Then tailor a solution proposal that clearly articulates how IBM's new workloads address these specific needs, providing a clear ROI and a phased integration plan. Option C. Emphasize the aggressive pricing and promotional offers available for the new workloads, suggesting that the client should act quickly to secure these discounts before they expire, irrespective of a deep understanding of their integration needs. Option D. Focus on demonstrating the advanced technical capabilities of the new workloads and their future-proofing potential, while downplaying the immediate integration challenges and emphasizing that the client will eventually need to modernize. The correct answer is D. Focus on demonstrating the advanced technical capabilities of the new workloads and their future-proofing potential, while downplaying the immediate integration challenges and emphasizing that the client will eventually need to modernize. Explanation. Scenario analysis. This scenario presents a common implementation challenge where a client, focused on immediate cost savings and familiar legacy systems, resists adopting new IBM workload solutions. The challenge lies in balancing the client's perceived needs with the demonstrable long-term benefits and strategic advantages of the proposed new workloads, while adhering to IBM sales guidelines and ethical selling practices. The professional challenge is to effectively communicate value, address concerns, and guide the client towards a solution that aligns with their business objectives and IBM's offerings, without resorting to misrepresentation or undue pressure. Correct approach analysis. The correct approach involves a thorough discovery process to understand the client's underlying business challenges and strategic goals. By mapping these to the specific capabilities and benefits of IBM's new workloads, the sales professional can build a compelling business case. This includes demonstrating how the new workloads can address current pain points, improve efficiency, enable innovation, and provide a competitive advantage. This approach aligns with ethical selling principles by prioritizing the client's best interests and providing solutions that genuinely add value. It also adheres to IBM's sales framework by focusing on consultative selling and solution-oriented engagement, ensuring that the proposed solution is a good fit and delivers measurable outcomes. Incorrect approach is analysis. One incorrect approach is to solely focus on the technical features of the new workloads without connecting them to tangible business outcomes or addressing the client's stated concerns about legacy system integration. This fails to demonstrate value and can be perceived as a pushy sales tactic, potentially violating ethical guidelines by not acting in the client's best interest. Another incorrect approach is to dismiss the client's concerns about their existing infrastructure and the perceived complexity of migration. Ignoring these concerns or downplaying their significance can lead to a solution that is not practical or sustainable for the client, thus breaching the duty of care and potentially misrepresenting the ease of adoption. A third incorrect approach is to overpromise on immediate cost savings without a clear, data-backed justification, especially if these savings are contingent on significant future investments or operational changes that haven't been fully explored with the client. This can be considered misleading and unethical, as it creates unrealistic expectations and could lead to client dissatisfaction and reputational damage for IBM. Professional reasoning. Professionals should employ a consultative selling methodology. This involves active listening to understand the client's business, challenges, and objectives. The next step is to diagnose the situation by identifying how IBM's new workloads can address these specific needs. Then, the professional should design a solution that clearly articulates the value proposition, including both strategic and financial benefits, while acknowledging and mitigating potential implementation challenges. Finally, they should confirm the solution's fit and ensure client buy-in through transparent communication and evidence-based recommendations. This process ensures that the proposed solution is not only technically sound, but also strategically aligned with the client's long-term success and adheres to ethical business practices. Question 18. Quality control measures reveal that a sales representative, under pressure to meet quarterly targets, is considering exaggerating the current performance metrics of a new IBM workload solution to a prospective client who has expressed concerns about scalability for their rapidly growing business. The The representative believes that by highlighting potential future optimizations that are not yet fully realized, they can secure the deal. What is the most ethically sound and professionally responsible course of action for the sales representative in this situation? Option A. Exaggerate the current scalability capabilities of the solution, assuring the client that it will easily handle their projected growth without any issues. Option B. Clearly articulate the current, proven performance metrics of the IBM workload solution, including any known limitations regarding scalability, and discuss potential future enhancements as part of a long-term roadmap, without presenting them as immediate solutions. Option C. Downplay the client's concerns about scalability and focus solely on the solution's current strengths in other areas, assuming the client will adapt. Option D. Emphasize the potential for future scalability enhancements, suggesting they will be available in time to address the client's immediate concerns, even if the exact timelines are uncertain. The correct answer is B. Clearly articulate the current proven performance metrics of the IBM workload solution, including any known limitations regarding scalability, and discuss potential future enhancements as part of a long-term roadmap, without presenting them as immediate solutions. Explanation. Scenario analysis. This scenario presents a professional challenge where a sales representative, under pressure to meet targets, is tempted to misrepresent the capabilities of a new IBM workload solution to a potential client. The challenge lies in balancing the drive for sales success with the ethical obligation to provide accurate and truthful information. Misrepresenting product capabilities can lead to significant client dissatisfaction, reputational damage for IBM, and potential regulatory scrutiny if it constitutes misleading advertising or breaches contractual obligations. The pressure to meet sales quotas can create a conflict of interest, making ethical decision-making paramount. Correct approach analysis. The correct approach involves a commitment to transparency and honesty. The sales representative should clearly articulate the current capabilities of the IBM workload solution, including any known limitations or areas where it may not fully meet the client's stated needs. This approach upholds the ethical principle of truthfulness and builds long-term trust with the client. It aligns with general business ethics and the implied warranty of merchantability, ensuring the client receives a product that performs as described. Furthermore, it prevents potential future disputes and legal ramifications arising from unmet expectations. Incorrect approaches analysis. One incorrect approach involves exaggerating the solution's current capabilities to secure the sale. This is ethically unsound, as it constitutes a misrepresentation of facts. It violates the principle of honesty and could lead to the client making a purchasing decision based on false pretenses, resulting in potential breach of contract claims and significant reputational damage for IBM. This also risks violating consumer protection laws that prohibit deceptive trade practices. Another incorrect approach is to downplay or omit information about known limitations that are critical to the client's specific use case. This is a form of omission that amounts to deception. While not an outright lie, it deliberately withholds crucial information, leading the client to believe the solution is a better fit than it actually is. This failure to disclose material facts can have severe legal and ethical consequences, potentially leading to claims of fraud or misrepresentation. A third incorrect approach is to promise future enhancements or features that are not yet developed or guaranteed, implying they will be available to solve the client's immediate problem. This is speculative and misleading. Unless there is a firm, documented roadmap with clear delivery timelines and contractual commitments, such promises are unethical and can lead to significant client disappointment and legal action. It blurs the line between current product offerings and future possibilities, creating unrealistic expectations. Professional reasoning. Professionals should adopt a decision-making framework that prioritizes integrity and client well-being. This involves 1. Thoroughly understanding the client's needs and the capabilities of the IBM solution. 2. Communicating honestly about what the solution can and cannot do, including any known limitations. 3. Seeking clarification or additional information if unsure about a product's capabilities. 4. Escalating concerns or potential misalignments to management or technical experts for guidance. 5. Always acting in a manner that builds trust and fosters long-term relationships, even if it means not making an immediate sale. This proactive and transparent approach safeguards both the client and the company. Question 19. Research into IBM's new workload sales practices reveals a situation where a client is expressing strong interest in a new AI-powered analytics solution. The client's IT department has raised concerns about the integration complexity and the immediate return on investment, citing budget constraints. The sales professional is under significant pressure to meet quarterly targets, which approach best aligns with ethical sales practices and regulatory compliance for IBM new workload sales. Option A. Provide a detailed technical white paper on the AI solution's architecture and security protocols, leaving the client to interpret the integration feasibility and ROI based on their own understanding. Option B. Focus solely on the advanced features and cutting-edge technology of the AI solution, assuring the client that the integration will be straightforward and the ROI will be substantial within the first quarter, without dwelling on the IT department's specific concerns. Option C. Advise the client to postpone the purchase until their IT infrastructure is more robust and their budget allows for a more comprehensive implementation, suggesting alternative, less complex solutions that IBM might offer in the interim. Option D. Emphasize the transformative potential of the AI solution, highlighting success stories from other industries and suggesting that the integration challenges can be overcome with dedicated effort, while also offering a phased implementation plan that aligns with the client's budget cycles. The correct answer is D. Emphasize the transformative potential of the AI solution, highlighting success stories from other industries and suggesting that the integration challenges can be overcome with dedicated effort, while also offering a phased implementation plan that aligns with the client's budget cycles. Explanation. This scenario presents a professional challenge due to the inherent conflict between achieving sales targets and upholding ethical sales practices, particularly when dealing with potentially sensitive client data and the introduction of new, complex technologies like IBM's new workloads. The pressure to meet quotas can tempt sales professionals to overpromise or misrepresent capabilities, which can lead to significant client dissatisfaction, reputational damage for IBM, and potential regulatory scrutiny. Careful judgment is required to balance business objectives with client trust and compliance. The correct approach represents best professional practice because it prioritizes transparency, client benefit, and adherence to IBM's ethical guidelines and relevant sales regulations. By thoroughly understanding the client's needs and clearly communicating the capabilities and limitations of the new workloads, the sales professional builds trust and ensures the client makes an informed decision. This aligns with principles of responsible selling, where the focus is on providing value and fostering long-term relationships rather than short-term gains. It also implicitly adheres to regulations that govern fair and honest representation in sales, preventing deceptive practices. An incorrect approach that involves exaggerating the immediate ROI or downplaying the implementation complexity would be professionally unacceptable. This constitutes a misrepresentation of facts, which is a breach of ethical conduct and potentially violates consumer protection laws that prohibit deceptive advertising and sales tactics. Such an approach erodes client trust, can lead to contractual disputes, and exposes both the individual and IBM to legal and financial repercussions. Another incorrect approach, such as pushing for a sale without fully assessing the client's technical readiness or existing infrastructure, demonstrates a lack of due diligence. This not only risks client failure with the new workload, but also violates the principle of acting in the client's best interest. It can be seen as a form of negligence in sales, where the focus is solely on closing the deal rather than ensuring a successful outcome for the client. This can also lead to regulatory issues if it can be proven that the sale was made under misleading pretenses regarding the suitability of the product. The professional decision-making process for similar situations should involve a structured approach. 1. Understand the client's genuine needs and objectives. 2. Thoroughly understand the product's capabilities, limitations, and implementation requirements. 3. Communicate honestly and transparently about what can be achieved, including potential challenges and realistic timelines. 4. Prioritize client success and long-term partnership over immediate sales figures. 5. Consult internal resources or management if unsure about how to best represent a product or address a client's concerns. 6. Always operate within the bounds of ethical guidelines and applicable regulations. Question 20. The evaluation methodology shows that a salesperson is presenting a new IBM workload solution to a prospective client. During the demonstration, The client expresses significant concerns about the solution's current integration capabilities with their existing legacy systems, highlighting potential implementation challenges and extended timelines. The salesperson is under pressure to meet quarterly sales targets. What is the most ethical and professionally responsible course of action for the salesperson? Option A. Acknowledge the client's concerns, clearly articulate the current integration limitations, and propose a phased implementation plan that addresses these challenges with realistic timelines and defined deliverables, potentially including a pilot program. Option B. Emphasize the long-term benefits and future roadmap of the new workload solution, downplaying the immediate integration challenges to secure the sale and address them post-implementation. Option C. Immediately pivot the conversation to a different, less complex IBM solution that the client did not initially inquire about, to avoid discussing the integration difficulties of the desired workload. Option D. Assure the client that integration issues are typically minor and can be resolved quickly by the client's IT team, focusing on closing the deal based on the core functionality of the new workload. The correct answer is A. Acknowledge the client's concerns, clearly articulate the current integration limitations, and propose a phased implementation plan that addresses these challenges with realistic timelines and defined deliverables, potentially including a pilot program. Explanation. This scenario presents a common ethical dilemma in sales, particularly within the context of IBM's new workload sales, where understanding client needs and offering appropriate solutions is paramount. The challenge lies in balancing the drive to close a deal with the ethical obligation to provide accurate and non-misleading information, especially when dealing with emerging technologies like new workloads. The salesperson must navigate the pressure to meet targets without compromising the client's trust or potentially leading them into a solution that doesn't genuinely meet their requirements or is presented with exaggerated capabilities. Correct approach involves a commitment to transparency and a client-centric focus. By acknowledging the limitations of the current offering and proposing a phased approach with clear deliverables and realistic timelines, the salesperson demonstrates integrity and builds long-term trust. This aligns with ethical sales practices that prioritize the client's success and avoid overpromising. It also implicitly adheres to principles of fair dealing and avoiding deceptive practices, which are foundational to professional conduct in any regulated sales environment, even if specific regulations for this exam are not explicitly detailed beyond the general framework of responsible business conduct. An incorrect approach would be to exaggerate the capabilities of the new workload solution to secure the sale. This constitutes a misrepresentation of facts, which is ethically unsound and can lead to significant client dissatisfaction, reputational damage for IBM, and potential contractual disputes. Another incorrect approach would be to ignore the client's concerns about integration and proceed with the sale as if the issues do not exist. This demonstrates a lack of diligence and a failure to act in the client's best interest, potentially leading to costly implementation problems and a breakdown of trust. Finally, pressuring the client to make a decision without providing sufficient information or addressing their concerns is also unethical, as it undermines the principle of informed consent and can be seen as manipulative. Professionals should approach such situations by first actively listening to and understanding the client's concerns and requirements. They should then assess the proposed solution's capabilities against these needs, being honest about any gaps or limitations. If a solution is not a perfect fit, the professional should explore alternative strategies, such as phased implementations, pilot programs, or identifying complementary solutions, always with the client's ultimate success as the primary objective. This decision-making process emphasizes honesty, due diligence, and a commitment to building sustainable client relationships based on trust and mutual benefit.